Hey, good evening, everybody. You saw that very fast northwesterly flow we had today in the wake of the system that is now in the southeast U.S. And we've had some pretty intense wind gusts here. Had some limbs down just outside here, and these are some of the gusts we had. Highest I saw was 45 up and down the I-35 corridor, actually 46 here at San Antonio. So pretty good winds there, and that's a consequence of cyclonic flow coming straight down from the panhandle. Temperature anomaly map looking like this. Pretty much cold air to the west, or to the west, and then warm air to the east. And you can almost see exactly where that warm sector is. And you can see how that's wrapped around the low pressure area down in the Atlanta and Huntsville area. So we'll check that out shortly. High temperatures look like this, and lots of 60s and 70s here in Texas, and some warm temperatures throughout the southeast. And this pretty much also outlines the warm sector, lots of 60s and 70s, and even close to 80 in Florida, and this is probably a bad value here. My voice decided to die or something. I think that 92 is wrong, but out in the west U.S., a lot cooler than what we've seen, and in the Great Basin area, things really cooling down, and that'll have an influence on our weather later next week. We'll do our quick thermal analysis. Just to recap, this is 500 to 1,000 millibar thickness. It's basically the distance between the pressure surfaces and the vertical, where a barometer reads 1,000 millibars and where it reads 500, which is about half of the normal pressure. So that's roughly from about the surface up to about 5 kilometers. And where we have very low thickness, the surfaces are very close together, and that means cold air, and that's what's happening up to the north. In fact, where the air is coldest, up here in Labrador, thicknesses are very low, and we have cold air through a fairly deep layer. So it's actually better to use thickness for general analysis rather than use isotherms, because you can look at a bunch of values at once and it normalizes it to a common level. So it kind of removes the effective adiabatic processes, and you get basically an average within this layer from about the surface up through 5 kilometer. So the cold front pretty well outlined here in the Gulf. Very strong cold air advection in the wake of that out over the Gulf, and it's almost a sure bet that if we look at satellite, we'll see a lot of stratocumulus coming off the land masses out over the warmer waters. Warm front looks like that is up through maybe South Carolina. In the north of that, probably like we saw in the anomaly chart, probably a little tongue of warm air coming up back towards Tennessee and Kentucky. Okay, so we get that one East Coast system, and then we have action out west. We have our new Pacific system coming inland, very strong cold air advection off the Los Angeles coast. And we can basically put that front right there from about Los Angeles southwestward, and we should take a look at L.A., probably some very interesting weather going on right there. And I don't know if Ron's on, but he could probably fill us in what's going on there. Warm front probably from the Mojave Desert to the Mogollon Rim, and occluded front probably going up through the Sierra Nevadas. So very cold air coming onshore, and cold core out over the Pacific right there. So we're going to see this front moving towards Texas over the next couple days. Well, I'm seeing Monday on the chart. I guess we're starting a new work week here. Days are just flying by. Okay, 500 millibar analysis. This is up in the mid-levels, and this gives us kind of a rough idea where the jet pattern is. polar front jet through the southwest U.S. We can use this to kind of confirm our frontal analysis. So the trough is right there, and the ridge is out here. We're going to find the front about halfway along the jet. And then the surface, I'm not going to say low, but the surface triple point is going to be right here. And similar situation out east. There's the trough. Here's the ridge. Frontal system will be roughly like that. So if we have any doubts about our analysis, we can turn to this upper air chart. All right. You can also see we've got a cold core over the Mississippi River Valley. Now, I should caution you, this is 12Z, so this is this morning. We don't have the new Canadian analysis out yet, but that has shifted a little bit further to the east, and we can see that on the SPC mesoanalysis. So a very pronounced dry sector through here, where the drier, colder air is coming through. And then if we go up to higher levels, we'll go up to 500 millibars. We should be able to see that cold core. There it is right there, pretty much over the Jackson, Mississippi area, out towards Selma, Thomasville, I guess, Alabama. Then we go up to 300 millibars. That'll pretty much fall within this low pressure region, probably right over Mississippi. So they're actually getting cold core showers over northern Alabama and central Mississippi, where the lapse rates are quite steep. And as you might guess, stronger upper level jet well to the south. So these cold core storms are not very well. We don't have much bulk shear with those. They're sitting right in the cold core. So these are not going to be particularly long-lived cells. Okay, let's see where we're at. Yeah, let's take a look at a few soundings real quick. We'll go to Fort Worth. Looks like we're getting partial data from Fort Worth. And I bet you the wind has disrupted the sounding launch. Yeah, it's got a sorry message there. We'll go to Shreveport. Pretty similar air mass there at Shreveport, and don't have anything there either. That's kind of curious. Guess we'll try Lake Charles. Do I have the wrong date? Is tomorrow the 23rd? Yeah, 23rd 0Z. I don't know why these aren't in yet. I'm going to go to the UCAR site real quick. So it's a good idea to have some backup sources when you want to look at data. Go to Fort Worth, and looks like they have it. So I guess that was a problem there at University of Wyoming. So showing a very strong northwesterly flow at all levels, topping out at about 135 knots, up at about 32,000 feet. And you can see these very steep lapse rates here at Dallas. But we're not getting any showers out of that because of all the dry air. And we're kind of capped off above that with some warm air in the mid-levels. But yeah, look at that photograph there. Very straight line and all stretched out towards the southeast. So if you got any storms going in this kind of air mass, they would be very fast moving. Let's take a look at the cold core storms at Jackson. So you can see, looks like the winds are a little bit weaker there. Actually, I think you have to get up to the north part of the state for them to die off. So we got about 60 knots here in the upper levels. Pretty weak in the mid-levels here. And we do see some fairly steep lapse rates and some decent humidity right here. So if we do a little bit of a mixed parcel here, we'll get probably about 500 joules per kilogram of CAPE. And the air mass is not homogeneous, so there may be some areas where the lapse rate is a little bit steeper. And that's where you're probably going to get your storms. It's important to keep in mind these soundings. That is only a sample of one point there in Mississippi. And we don't really have any data from all around there, so there can be some variance between what the atmosphere actually is around thunderstorms and what the nearby proximity sounding shows. Okay, we'll take a look at the 500 millibar analysis, and I think for this we'll switch over to AWIPS. AWIPS is pretty cool because that's what the Weather Service uses. And I just pulled these in. Let me see what we got here. Okay, we're looking at somehow I picked out the rapid refresh. But yeah, we'll go ahead and use this real quick. I'm going to take a look at the chat and make sure I'm not having any problems here. Got to report that the audio is good. See, we got Michael and Sue and Kevin and the S-Skinny, or the Skinny. Alexi, it was crazy windy in Killeen. Yeah, it's been very windy here. Killeen is about halfway between Dallas and Houston, or Austin. Mark's checking in. The Skinny, or the S-Skinny, windy and drizzle here earlier in Medford. Jeff says lost power at Tallahassee, Florida. Ron says lots of rain in Southern California. Yeah, we should look at that before I forget about that. Let me get something set up for California. I'm going to use College DuPage here. And yeah, you can see some showers right there in the LA basin. San Bernardino right there. LA is right here, and pretty much showers all through the valley. Looks like a little bit of beam blocking going on here at this radar site. So you probably have to fill that in with other radars there. Check out the San Diego radar. So this is a little bit further down the coast. San Diego is right there. The mountains just inland, located right in this area, and pretty good line of showers moving in, and there's probably some very gusty winds associated with that. And I'm going to take a quick look at the deserts, just out of curiosity. And wow, looks like we got some showers even then. You notice how we didn't see any showers on the San Diego radar? I'll go back to that San Diego radar and show that to you. Yeah, there you go. See, we had showers in this area right around the Salton Sea here. But they weren't showing up because of even more beam blocking there. So that's some of the unique problems you have to put up with forecasting in the western U.S. And I'm going to close it out, taking one little look there at the Edwards Air Force Base radar. Showers a little bit more broken there in the Mojave Desert. Okay, then the other area we have got a bit of a squall line off the Carolina coast into central Florida. That's the residual part of that warm sector front sweeping southward and triggering storms along that front. And we can check that out on the radar. Got GR level 2 up, and there's the action. Doesn't look like anything too serious here. Just a lot of multi-cells up and down the line. I did see earlier today we had some pretty good supercells in this area right here of southwestern Georgia. I might have some of those in my cache here. Let me check real quick. Yeah, this is Coleman, Georgia, earlier today. 1935. That's going to be about 2:35 p.m. And you can see that hook echo right here. And the velocity on that storm today looked like this on the lowest tilt. Nothing too interesting here, but when you get up to higher tilts, looked a little bit more ominous there, a little bit more sheer right over that updraft area. Okay, let's check out the rest of the chat here. Ron's at 5,000 there in Southern California. They started the day off with snow, and then it turned to rain around 1 p.m. Still raining with several inches so far of rain, high winds. Wow. There's, let's see, Sarah and Sue. Sue says weather is so boring there in Indiana. Michael talking about the tornado in Albany. EF2. Okay, and then fog from Lloyd Durfee. That's kind of a new name there. Had lots of fog there in Palmyra. Is that right, New York? More of the same predicted tonight. And a comment from Daniel Park. Yeah, I appreciate that. Makes for good lunch break watch. Okay, excellent. Let's go ahead and get into the forecast here. I've got that set up, and let me get everything queued up. Wind is finally dying down outside. Usually in the wake of your fronts like this, the winds are very diurnal, and they taper off at dusk, and that's kind of what's happening now. Winds are down to about 5 to 10 knots, and temperatures coming down to 59 where I'm at here. Okay, so here we can see both the southeast U.S. system. There's the front and warm front off the North Carolina coast, and we can also see the South Carolina system right here. So let's see what's going to happen overnight. Southern California system moves inland. Cold core in the southeast U.S. Moves eastward. Things calm down a bit here in Texas, weaker gradient. Then we go through the day, and then for the webcast tomorrow night, system is starting to come through the Rocky Mountain region. And looks like the front somewhere in New Mexico right there. Maybe a bit of a warm front, something like that, maybe in Texas. I'm not too sure about that. But you can see a lot of precip behind the front, and the cold core is probably way out here in this part of California. So the system will continue moving eastward, and you can see a little bit of lee side troughing here, kind of tied in with that front. Then for Tuesday's webcast, let me go back to noon on Tuesday to really show that westerly component here in Texas. So this looks like a downslope day with the warm sector across Texas, probably temperatures coming back up near 80, maybe above 80 in some parts of Texas. But that front will be coming close. Probably kind of like that. And you can see it also looks like a dry front. The main baroclinic system, actually it's an occlusion now, will be moving up to the Great Lakes area. So you can see that right there. That's becoming kind of decoupled from the main thermal gradient to the south. So the front will be kind of like this. We're talking Wednesday morning here. Then the occlusion kind of like that. So Wednesday's webcast. Front pushing through Texas, should see a good cool down. And a lot of cool air settling in, especially over the Great Basin area. For Thursday's webcast, front pushing into the Gulf of Mexico right there and clearing even part of North Mexico. Lots of cool air across the north and the west. Things pretty calm. For Friday, more of the same, lots of cool air, but you can see the thickness contours kind of bunching up in this area. Maybe a little bit of cyclogenesis as an upper level system moves in. So we'll have to kind of watch this area here. You can see a very well built Great Basin high across Idaho, Nevada, and Utah. Probably a lot of cool temperatures there in the valleys. Pressure coming up to 1052 there, pretty good. Then let's see, we'll go through the weekend. Looks like a cold push through the eastern U.S. Not much for Texas. So Texas will be kind of mild. Then it finally looks like around the 29th or 30th we get this cold push we've been talking about for the past few days. There it goes, pushing south. Very strong winds, and Fred is probably not happy with that. He's up in North Dakota there. Then Tuesday, 31st. That cold push stalls out a little bit, but it does kind of drift into Texas. And let's see, second. That's kind of a very, looks like a very shallow push of cold air. You can see most of the thickness contours are kind of bunched up here, but I can see the ridging in this area right here. So it looks like a very shallow air mass, probably about 1,000 or 2,000 feet across Texas. So once we get some low pressure in this area, we should see that start eroding pretty quickly. And then we see the next front coming southward on February 2nd or 6th here. And that gets to the end of that GFS run. And we'll do a quick comparison with the European model and the Canadian model. And I've talked about this over the past several nights, how to do this. We get very limited European data because of the extensive restrictions on that data, but the European model is very powerful. I don't know about now, but for a while it was the most powerful model in the world. And there it is, looking at February 1st at 12Z, and we're looking at 850 millibar temperatures. So the 10 Celsius line is going to be coming from about Ohio to southwest Minnesota and then up to Saskatchewan like that. And you can see the cold push coming down like that. So let me go over that one more time. Cincinnati to, I guess, about Peoria to Bismarck, and then, okay. So there we go. So let's compare that to the GFS. This is the GFS forecast for the same time. 10 Celsius is going to be towards the back of the white, like where the white is almost starting to transition to purple. So comparing that with the European model had it more like this. So you can see the GFS going for a more extensive outbreak of cold air. Okay. So let's see, Buffalo, St. Louis, Denver to Great Falls. Okay. Then let's go over and check the Canadian model at the same time. Here's the GDPS, Canadian model. If we do the 10 Celsius line with that, it's kind of like that. Okay, and then the European model was running like this. And then the US GFS model was looking like that. So you can see that the Canadian and GFS, they're kind of looking at the same basic picture. And then the GFS is the outlier, and it's got a little bit more extensive cold air. That would affect more for Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas. And then with these solutions, initially that'll affect mostly the Mississippi River and Ohio Valley, kind of like that. But the models are in agreement. We are going to have cold air flowing south. The question is how far west that cold air will be. And then I saw later in the GFS run, it was starting to bring more northerly flow over Canada. So I think we're going to have probably temperatures well below normal across a lot of the country for the first and second week of February. Okay, that's about all I've got. Lloyd talking about there in New York, a heavy snow advisory for Monday and Tuesday, 6 to 10 inches. Wow. Well, nothing like that here in Texas, but maybe we'll get a bit of a change for the first week of February there. Okay, that's about all I got for tonight. I appreciate you checking in, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks.